I'm Jim Collison and live from the Gallup studios here in Studio B in Omaha, Nebraska. This is Gallup's Theme Thursday, Season 4, recorded on October 18th, 2018. Theme Thursday is a Gallup webcast series that dives deep into the Clifton Strengths themes, one theme at a time. And today's theme is responsibility. If you have questions, comments, contributions during this webcast, we do have a live chat room available for you. Right down there, right below the main video window, it's available for you. Log in, choose the login button, bottom left-hand corner. Choose the guest account. Take the guest name out in the numbers, put your name in, hit submit. No need to create an account, although you can log in with any of the social media platforms that are out there. Love to have you in the chat room. It's the best way to get your questions in and the best way to interact with us during the post show. So make sure you get logged in. If you're listening to the recorded version or have any questions about anything that we do, send us an email, coaching@gallup.com. Don't forget to visit the Gallup Strengths Center. Just gallupstrengthscenter.com for all your Clifton Strengths coaching resources and training needs. You can also catch the video in both streaming and downloadable audio. For offline listening, we call that podcasting. It's all the cool kids are doing it.
All the rage.
Yeah, it's what they do. You can download it there as well. I'm surprised as many people aren't taking advantage of that. Both Android and iPhones have native podcast apps now. Get on your phones, search for us, find us. If you need to know exactly where we're at, go to coaching.gallup.com, click on the resources tab, and we have a podcasting section for you. And don't forget one more thing, to subscribe, rate, and review wherever platform that you're on. It always helps us out. We love those great reviews. Maika Leibbrandt is our host today. She works as a workplace consultant here with me at Gallup. And Maika, always great. Welcome back to another Theme Thursday.
Thanks, Jim. Thrilled to be here.
We are talking about responsibility, 29 of 34, as we are working our way through the series. Let's start. We have a little theme brief, and I'm just gonna admit up front, responsibility bottom for me, like bottom, not only bottom, but sometimes a weakness. So I'm super excited today to talk about it. Maika, give us a little brief.
Well, Jim, it's remarkable you and I ever get anything done, because it's also like super, super bottom for me. Like, I don't even really know where. A good thing our new Clifton Strengths 34 report comes out next week, because we'll all be a lot more aware of where these themes are. All I know is it's not there for me. Responsibility, however, is a fantastic theme and one that I admire in some of my very best partners. It's an executing theme. And if you want to know the brief around responsibility, it's if I say I will do it, I will do it. Responsibility is really about loyalty, dedication to your commitments, ownership, and really being there to follow up on what you say that you will do.
Yeah, my wife has it one or two, I think. I should really memorize those. And I lean on it all the time. Like, we would be a total wreck without her. She is at her best when she's kind of keeping me in check. How, for those folks that have it high, how are they at their best?
I hope you tell her when she's keeping you in check that this is her at her best. It sounds like that could be a good exercise as well.
Or marriage counseling, one of the two. Yeah.
Hey, she's at her best. Oh, Sarah, we love your responsibility. And we love responsibility in others. I think about really my very best partners have it high, and the value that they bring to me, just as if you've got high responsibility, the value that you bring to the team is stability. You're probably rather predictable. And I think this element of clarity, you can help everyone on that team or in that family or in that relationship know where you are in relationship to where you promised you would be. That's a beautiful thing, that clarity, that shared understanding of progress. And I think when it's at its best, you're not just keeping that awareness on the inside, but you're educating, you're updating, and you're helping track progress for your partners as well. Using the word partner makes me really want to lean into this idea that if you've got high responsibility, that's a gracious gift. You can put the partner in the phrase accountability partner. When I hear I need an accountability partner, I kind of cringe, because it means, oh, someone's going to check in with me on all those big ideas that I said I would do. And I usually know I'm not going to. But I think with somebody with responsibility, it doesn't feel like a burden. Accountability feels like a gift. It feels like I honor you enough to keep us both honest about doing what we committed to doing. And when you work with folks with high responsibility, it doesn't feel like a function. It doesn't feel like a lever that they're pulling. It feels like just an extension extension of who they are, for them to follow up and say, hey, it could be as simple as saying, we still have these deliverables that we need to get, or it could be something emotional, like saying, you mentioned in a previous conversation that you wanted to come back to this idea. Can we talk some more? So it is an executing theme. It is one that helps people get stuff done and get stuff done specifically with that external locus of motivation, meaning I'll do something because I've told someone else I would. But I think it also has this really emotional element to it where it looks like loyalty.
Yeah, let me do the responsible thing here and say, if you're listening to us live on YouTube and you're in the YouTube chat, there's a separate chat feature for YouTube. That's just on YouTube, and we're not there. We're actually at coaching.gallup.com, and then go to the live tab, or you can put /live in there. And there is a unified chat wing that we use that's available for you. I mentioned that at the very beginning of the show. And so Vianne had said there were some people over there. So if you're trying to chat with us, or we're not watching that one, watching the unified chat over at the live page, come join us over there, and we'd love to have you as part of the conversation. Maika, what can we, with those with high responsibility, what should they be raising their hand for? What kind of things could they be doing more of?
Do more sharing on purpose what you're already tracking in your mind. I think that could probably be said for every theme, but specifically think about how can you set yourself up to be the one that other people look to for updates, or look to for understanding on progress, outstanding commitments. Position yourself there on purpose and out loud, because chances are you're already tracking it on your own anyway. That might be something as simple as saying, hey, let's make sure that this person gets the last word every time we have a meeting, or when we've got a brainstorming session, if we're explicitly, that's the word I was looking for. If we're explicit about where we're leaving things by giving it to that person to summarize, it could be saying, okay, what have we committed to? And especially if you're doing it from that collective of what have we said we would do, that's a great use of your responsibility being reflected back on other people. I think sometimes the danger, and when I'm coaching folks with high responsibility, they get into this really heavy place where they are carrying all of the commitments for the entire team because they're the one who hears them and they're the one who worries about them when they're not done. I think if you can position yourself to be a group commitment referee, then you can be able to say in a very supportive way, what have each of us decided that we would do, or together, what do we need to follow up on?
Well,
also,
sorry, keep going. Sorry.
Well, I think also do more prioritizing. Ask yourself and ask others how any new activity compares to that outstanding work that you're still tracking. It might be that this replaces it, and you're going to need that out loud. Also, think about how all your work stacks up against your most important priorities. Just because you have the superpower to get things done doesn't mean you need to be spreading yourself thin to get everything done.
Sorry, I got a little lost in the notes there, Maika, so sorry to interrupt you. If you look at the sign here, I think responsibility is in there somewhere, right up at the top here, because it's a major theme in our family. These are my family's themes, so five kids, 3 spouses, and the cat might even be in here. And so I learned early on that, especially with my kids, and a few of my kids carry this responsibility theme in, and so especially my oldest. And I knew early on that I could give him things to do, and I knew he would do them. It was just one of those magical moments. Yeah, he's the oldest child, and so he carries some of that burden anyways. But we knew we'd had him take Strengths Explorer, and so we kind of knew that coming out, and then StrengthsFinder after that. And so we kind of knew he had this responsibility theme. And so, Maika, we set up at home lots of opportunities for him to succeed or for him to use that responsibility. And it paid great dividends for us. And so when we think about other environments, how can we support that talent more than just giving them things to do?
So what does that look like? I know you're setting me up for a great segue to answer the question, but you piqued my interest. 1, which themes does your cat have? And 2, when you talk about giving opportunities for people with responsibility to succeed, what were those, or what did they look like?
Yeah, let's skip the cat question for just a second, because he's annoying, and that's maybe the 35th theme. But in our situation, it was really, really important that when we think about we're going to be out of the house and we need someone to be responsible for, we had 4 other kids behind him. And so there were lots of opportunities to demonstrate that. We trusted him. There was inherent trust when he said, hey, I'm going out with friends tonight. And we'd say, okay, just tell us a little bit about what you're doing. and he would say it, we could trust him. We would know. We probably gave him a little bit more leeway than we would give our middle, who was all adaptability, right? So we knew the adaptability kid would conform to any situation that was going on around him, and he had a track record of that on always being great results. But we knew with our oldest, Phil is his name, that he would do what he was going to say he was going to do, and so we could, and so we actually trusted him. Maika, it was one of those kinds of things. It was like, okay, I see this in you. I'm not going to doubt until you give me a reason to doubt. Yeah. And man, that paid huge dividends in parenting.
Yeah. We'll talk about that in the working with responsibility piece, but I might as well just talk about it right now. I think folks with high responsibility have this tremendous capacity to function independently and really respond typically pretty well when they're given that independence and that responsibility as a noun, right? Being able to say, this is on you, figure it out, and honor that by understanding that they're not going to let you down.
No, it's good. So those were some of the environments we set up. There's 2 examples in parenting when we think about that. What else? What other environments can we set up to help them?
I think and this might be part of what you did as a parent of somebody with high responsibility, but if you have responsibility yourself, ask for clarity of expectations. Ask for what does finished or completed actually mean. You're going to be better off if you can run toward that goal rather than having to dance around an ambiguous agreement around, did we sort of do this? Did we completely do this? It could be as simple as saying, you need to be home and in your bed by midnight because that's your curfew, rather than saying, come home when all the activities are done. People with high responsibility, among other, I think, executing themes, do better when we all know what we're aiming for. So look for clarity. Also ask for confirmation whenever the direction changes. You're going to need explicit permission and maybe agreement to let go of something that you are on track to complete. So I often explore with people with high responsibility, what's the best way for you to prepare to respond to change? If it's, I've got 3 really big projects in the hopper that are all connected to an organizational initiative, and then the quarter changed and our goals changed and my leadership no longer really cares about that initiative. If I keep going because I've made that external commitment and because I have high responsibility, I'm now off track. So making sure that you are confirming and really out loud explicitly making those understandings known among everybody. Hey, do we need to keep going with this? Is it okay to let it go?
Marta says in the chat room, I married responsibility number 1. I did as well. It's 8 for me. His responsibility is so trustworthy for me. And it's also annoying when it holds me accountable. That responsibility does carry some weight, Maika, I think, of using the word in the definition of that responsibility to get things done or to make sure things are followed up on, or there is a little bit of weight. And I think there's things they can worry less about. What do they need to, what are those things? What are they not that they don't need to worry about?
Unless it comes from other themes, you're probably not going to be naturally spontaneous or naturally influenced by emotion. Your existing commitments are going to anchor you. And that can be a really beautiful thing. Thinking about Marta's comment about, hey, that accountability can be annoying sometimes. There's a mature element to responsibility where I think you can separate your awareness of what isn't finished with your desire to have to finish everything. So you can play that, say, hey, Maika, we had this great big brainstorming meeting. This is where I get in trouble with low responsibility. It becomes a weakness. We will have a great big brainstorming meeting and I will say, what if we do this? And that will translate to my partners who have responsibility. It'll translate as Maika's going to go do this. And later on, maybe I'll hear from that partner. They can do it 2 ways. They could do it the way that drives them and everyone else probably kind of into stress, which is, Maika, you said you were going to do this and it's not happening. Why aren't you doing it? Or they can bring it up as, Maika, I'm still aware of that thing you said you were going to do. How important is it that we still do it? And so using your understanding of outstanding commitments, that's sort of a hard, let me say that in a better way, instead of using 2 words that end in the same letters. Under your awareness of what's left undone is in many cases what drives you to complete. But I think there's also an extra variability, sort of a bonus muscle to the responsibility ecosystem that you can flex and still use that awareness of what's undone to be the guide and the compass and the check for, do we need to complete these other things, and use it more. Now I'm describing it almost as a strategic thinking benefit, sort of a bonus strategic thinking element to it. And I think that that's probably, it all comes down to having really good communication and really clear collaboration.
A little bit earlier, you talked about, in working with responsibility, about this extraordinary capacity to function independently. What else can we expect when we're working with responsibility? What else should we expect? I mean, I think there's some amazing superpowers in here
Absolutely.
that we need to be intentional about, with all of them, right? But I think with responsibility, there's some amazing superpowers we need to be intentional about. What else can we expect?
So let's say you're rocking up to work and you know there's somebody on your team who has high responsibility and you don't know much else. I think you can expect that if they, when it comes to projects, they will probably manage themselves more than other people without responsibility. You can also expect that they will have a great awareness of the progress toward goals. Perhaps that their main concern might even be closing the loop on existing commitments instead of taking on new ones. You can also expect some beautiful loyalty. And I think with that, kind of an emotional consistency and emotional steadiness.
Yeah, that consistency sometimes can be, I think, just personal experience, can be, for us, Maika, for the two of us who like to live a little bit on the edge, that can seem a little boring sometimes. We're like, hey, live a little. So living
So
with
just
high.
put that on your list of things to do. Make an external commitment. Okay, today I promise, my partner, I will live a little. Make it something that you can put into a bullet point list and it'll happen.
Yeah, or understand, and this is kind of where, as I've gotten to understand my wife and my oldest son, that it's okay that it doesn't always have to be an adventure, and that sometimes they actually like to live the adventure through me.
And
And
understand too that when you say adventure, the adrenaline rush that comes with it, the joy, the delight, the excitement, they get that same joy, delight, and excitement in other places.
right on.
Right. So for you, adventure might be external and social and all about influencing and doing crazy things and breaking rules. And I think for people with high responsibility, the moment that they deliver something to a person who they care about, that's just as much joy. That's roller coaster there. And I think that's important for us to realize that everybody has the capacity for like time to disappear because you're so into what you're doing. And so to be able to define adventure only the way that we would define it is probably missing an opportunity to honor the strengths of others.
Right on. How do we recognize those high in responsibility?
I think recognize their persistence, celebrate their diligence, their ability to keep their eye on the prize. Make a big deal of the effect that that has on other people. When have they kept the whole team on track? How have they overcome obstacles to growth or obstacles to progress? When have they had to maybe take a firm stance on something in defense of their promises that they've made? There's some great leadership attributes within that I think you should be celebrating.
Maika, the chat room is incredibly sophisticated today. I'm just going to call them out here really quick. There's some you guys that are in our chat wing chat, hopefully you've made it over if you weren't on there before, but some really good chat. Like deep, like words, which are awesome. So we must have some very responsible people here today, really doing it right in the chat room. If I have high responsibility, Maika, how can we stretch those that have it? How can we really work with those to help them grow?
I think one of the things you can do is help them understand and categorize the commitments that they're making. So people who are good at finishing will probably get asked to start a lot of things. So I think helping that person sort to when to say yes and how to say no. So that might mean getting better at saying no or just defending the energy that you have. It also might be getting better at knowing what your best yes is going to be. So that's probably by exploring where this person's interests, values, talents, and abilities all align. Help them not just to say yes because they know that they can get it done. Help them do the job that brings them the most joy. And if you're their manager, we're talking specifically around that, you might think about being their gatekeeper. So how can I make sure that I'm funneling the right projects to this person? Because chances are they're going to be so excited about making the commitment and following up on that commitment that they made, that the idea of them being better at something is just going to seem like an affront, because they're always going to give their all. There's a whole lot of ethics wrapped up in responsibility, and that desire to really have a strong drive to be honest and give their whole self and not sort of skirt the edges around things. So I think as their partner or as their manager, helping them position themselves to where they can really do the best job, and helping them realize that there might be places where they can't do their best job too. And those might be different conversations or different sides of the same coin, but certainly worth exploring.
Amy in the chat room says, yes, Maika, prioritization is the key. So, and I think it is too. We've spent a lot of time today talking about how to partner, how I've partnered in my family, but how else? How can we support them?
Sure. So check in with them on existing or outstanding challenges. Don't assume that out of sight means out of mind. It probably just means out of your sight into their mind. So that really doesn't honor them too much. Be explicit about it. Talk about what the end goal looks like, and plan for how you can share success when you get there. I also think you can be a good partner to folks with responsibility by living up to your own commitments, or maybe just making commitments explicitly that you know you will live up to.
I have a Ranger 1 and responsibility at the bottom. I actually have a Ranger activator. And man, that is a messy combo when we think about for responsibility, for people who have high responsibility, because I'm always generating ideation at 7. I'm always generating. And I think oftentimes those folks behind me that have that high responsibility are wanting to capture that stuff. I would also say sometimes, to go back to your question, Maika, about what do we need to worry less about. And I also think for those partners who have high responsibility working with us, crazy arrangers, activators, those kinds of things, let it go. I'm just going to say there's sometimes you don't need to take the responsibility for my actions. Ask me, do you want me to help you with that, right? Ask, is that something you need help with? Because oftentimes I may say no and you're off the hook, right? Ask for that permission to be left off the hook. I often hear people high in responsibility will say to me, well, I can't not do it, right? Well, if you can get permission to not do it, you can check that off your list and say, you know what? I don't have to be involved. And so ask, is this something you want me to be in on? Because oftentimes, no. I'm going to say, no, I got this. Or I'm just going to let this thing, I'm really famous for starting about 100 things just to see what will actually work, what will actually stick. It's kind of a startup mentality. Drives people with responsibility crazy. But if they'd ask me, do I need to get involved? Oftentimes I'll say no and give them permission not to do it.
Or I think you can also say out loud, like, we're just going to try this and see if it works. And maybe the completed is that we've tried. Right. So it's helping everybody, but especially that person with responsibility, see explicitly what is it that we're aiming for and how do we know that we've hit that so that we can let it go. So it's not assuming that finished is the same for every project. Finished and throwing an idea out there is throwing it, and that can be it. But I think you've got to be able to give permission to those people to let go of it.
Amy in the chat room says, I was late to this call because I was sitting on my hands to not volunteer for another initiative. I wanted to say yes so bad, right? Back to it. Yeah, no, I get that too. You do. That responsibility drives you to that. Hey, for those of us who don't carry that theme, let's give our responsibility. Let's recognize that. Let's sometimes give our responsibility friends the option, if they don't ask, to be preemptive and say, hey, I'm not actually asking you to do this. I do this technique a lot, Maika, where I'll say, hey, we're just ideating at the moment. Nobody take responsibility for these things. We're just talking about ideas. And that kind of helps set the expectations for the room to be like, okay, it's fair game. Nobody has to take responsibility. Nobody has to take an activator or achiever and get them done, right? Let's just let ideas be ideas. I think sometimes understanding the makeup of the room, this is where a team grid, understanding, having it on a name tag, this is where those really come in handy, right? Of being able to identify those quickly and help your partners, right?
And being able to say, gosh, I know you have high responsibility. So it probably makes you really uncomfortable to sit and hear the crickets when I ask who's going to be the champion or who's going to follow up. So being able to say to that person, I want you to say yes if this brings you joy. I don't want you to say yes out of guilt.
Yeah, and I think it's that mature self-awareness of because, and I do this from time to time. I'll roll through a meeting and then I'll realize, oh, if I had just taken a second and thought about this from a strengths perspective, we would have been so much more successful in what we were doing. And I don't. I live in an environment where we encourage it all the time, and still sometimes I miss that. I think it's a maturity model, Micah, coming in to kind of say, let me give you an example. With our interns, we try to start all the stand-ups with their top 5. One, so they'll memorize them. But two, it's just a great reminder of who they are. And yes, it takes a little extra time to get that done. But if you're in a situation where you don't have the top 5 posted, over the summer, we took the top 5, wrote them on big letters, and stuck them to the wall over their workstations so we would know who they are. I think that's an important reminder, right, of starting with strengths. If you're strengths-based, can you start with strengths? And can we take a 5-minute reminder of who you are? We add a question in sometimes in those stand-ups. What are you leading with right now? Like,
love it.
These are your top 5, but what are you leading with? So,
and probably just as important for them to practice remembering their own as it is listening to other people's, right?
Yeah, no, right on. And this doesn't have to be a flashy seminar. This doesn't have to be a strengths discovery moment. This doesn't have to
cost anything.
You don't even have to bring pizza. Like, just have them before you start. Like, hey, let's remind everybody of who we are and how we lead, right? And that can be in a meeting. That can be a quick 5 minutes. By the way, I think that's 5 minutes of sharpening your axe, right?
Yeah.
And that will pay dividends in the meeting. And a lot of people say, well, we have a lot of things to do. I don't think you can afford not to do it. Like, I think it's one of those pieces that starting the meeting with realizing, hey, here's who I am and here's how you can use me. Again, pays huge dividends.
Yeah, you get people in that place where you're in the habit of honoring each other and using each other in the way that our tools should be used. And because things are going to get hard, right? Things are going to get really hard at some point. It's going to be a challenging client or a really tough deadline or a sick kid. And if you've already paved the way to say, when you show up here, when you work with us, we'll use the best of you, you get a different resilience out of that.
No, right on. Okay. We've got some theme challenges for you that we've been going throughout the year. Don't forget, we post them on Instagram at Strengths Talk. Micah moves them over to the coaches, to our coaches group. No, to our Gallup Webcast group on Facebook, facebook.com/group/called-to-coach. We'd love to have you do that. I'll post them in the chat room as we go. But Micah, as we think about a dominant and lesser theme challenge, what do we got for us this week?
So I'm excited about this one because I think it might be the only challenge that people actually do because it's for people with high responsibility. Tongue in cheek, you still have to get stuff done even without executing.
Hashtag strengths joke, right?
Yeah. Hashtag strengths joke. So there's 3 ideas if you've got high responsibility. And I'll tell you right away, no one is following up on you to see if you actually did them. Do this out of joy, not out of guilt, but do it because it really is about how to invest in this theme. If responsibility is high for you, your challenge is to own what matters most. So you're really using your energy in the best way. Number 1, I want you to name what you are paid to do. If you've been listening to our Q12 for Coaches session with Mike McDonald, you'll probably rewind to question 1 on our Q12, which is at work. What is it? I know what I'm paid to do.
Yeah, I know what's expected of me.
I know what's expected of me. I've been reciting that for 10 years, just lost it there. I know what's expected of me at work. Do you know that over half of our database cannot give that a 5, cannot strongly agree with that piece? So oftentimes we say, have conversations with people about what it is that they're paid to do. And I would say go beyond just what your job title is or what your sort of other duties as assigned shake out to be. Define 1 or 2 functional, relational, and emotional responsibilities. And no more than that, no more than 2, so no more than 6 here. What is it, the essence of what you're really paid to do? Number 2, recognize somebody else who displays strong ethics or total dependability. So that's you with high responsibility, recognizing another work style that your loyalty, your ethics really admire. This celebration is going to elevate both of you and plant probably some seeds or sow some further seeds of partnership. Number 3 has a little creativity element to it. I can't wait to hear how you do this. Your challenge is to rank your to-do list based on priority to your own values. So you might use a color code system, you might use a number score, you might use a post-it, you might use an app. And then I want you to just go through and rank everything all your commitments, everything you said you would do based on how they get you closer to your values. And then maybe after you've done that, go back and rename what are the most important of those to-dos.
Maika, when people think about values, sometimes they're like, what are you guys talking about? And let me just pimp our values cards really quick that we have available. Boom, right here. So we have a deck of cards that are available for you. If you want to go shop.gallup.com, you can buy these. There's no magic to them. They're just some listed values. On the front side are
For example, here's a couple of them.
Okay, go.
I've got this from our accelerated coaching course. This is actually something that we go through. And here's my journal. Happen to be open to this page. I think we must have talked about this recently. The idea with the cards is you sort through this card deck. It's a great way to just center yourself around what are values. There's something that's more than just your strengths, and they're not assigned to a specific theme. But there's, 50 or some values on there with a little bit of definition on each of them. And the idea is you sort to 5 core values eventually, and then talk about how they relate to your themes. The most recent time that I did this card sort was October of last year, and mine were honesty, health, autonomy, altruism, and relationships. But there's also things like love, community, ancestry, competency, control, creativity, dignity, emotional well-being. So, the challenge, I didn't explicitly say do the values card sort. That might be something, if you can't name your values, you might want to do that to start with. But really the challenge for responsibility is just to sort your general to-do list of the week based on which ones are going to get you closer to living those values.
We make it easy for you to purchase these and then use them. You can just throw them out, give them as gifts away to people. By the way, they're great conversation starters too. Dinner table. Talk about, hey, this is community. Community reads people who care about something and pursue it together. And you can say, how does this value matter to you, right? Great dinner, breakfast, lunch, whatever. Great conversations to have. Those are the values cards. Okay. Lesser theme chat. By the way, we didn't plan that, but
we didn't. I also have, that is super rare and kind of amazing that I had the journal there and it was open to that page.
Oh, that is kind of cool. All right, lesser theme challenge. What do we got?
If you have responsibilities, the lesser theme, which Jim and I do, we should probably try this. The challenge is to explore how you respond to the needs of others. So really think about what is it that inspires you to get work done. Number 1, who keeps you accountable? Thank them in writing. And number 2, refresh your system for getting things done. So download an app, revisit your planner, maybe buy a 2019 planner if you're listening to this live, or just track your week. If you are somebody who has a system or a software piece or a hardware piece or a person that helps you get things done, I think it's worth just brushing that off and polishing it and making sure that it's working as well as it possibly can.
I wrote my lesser theme challenge to you right now, Maika, in the chat room. So thank you for keeping me accountable. You do that. It's funny. Neither one of us have it high, and yet we do that for each other.
We do.
In a lot of ways. Fairly selective, not always consistent. Some of those kinds of things, but we do spend a lot of time. We have projects we're responsible for, the planning of these programs, some of the community involvement and stuff that we do. We carry those together, and oftentimes we'll commit, and then one of us will remember that, and we'll be like, hey, didn't you say you were going to do that? And it's a great partnership.
It is. And maybe this will come up in our post show, which we're about to close, but stick around if you're here live, #post show. But I do think, there is something I think about who keeps me accountable. For me, it's where my frequency of relationships are. And that's what makes me get work done, is where am I going to show up again with folks, or where are people going to repeat their presence in my life? And Jim, for me, that's you. Like I see you more often than I do anybody else I work with. So, and that's probably a really good note, that you don't have to have responsibility in order to get things done. If you do have high responsibility, you get things done because you make the promise to somebody else. But there's lots of other ways that you can make promises and lots of other ways you can get things done.
Well, that's a great conversation going on out there. VN Ask Jim, does a ranger help you do that? And Woo wants people to like you, sort of. And so it's what you said. We'll talk a little bit about that in the post show. We mentioned the post show a couple times. You don't get
We'll
the post
examine
show.
Jim completely.
Yeah, really, yikes. Anyways, you don't get the post show unless you come out for the live show. We'd love to have you join us out here. Don't forget, you can get a list of all the live shows that are available for you, no matter when we're doing this, even if you're listening to this a couple years after we've recorded it, which is crazy, Maika, that we're talking to the future. But if you are doing that, head out to gallup.eventbrite.com, and assuming I'm still doing this, we are creating webcasts for you. We'll remind everyone to take full advantages of all the resources we have available at the Gallup Strength Center, just gallupstrengthcenter.com. You can send us your questions or comments to an email, a super easy email to remember, coaching@gallup.com. You can also catch the recorded audio and video of this program as well as all the past ones. They're available on our coaches blog. Go to coaching.gallup.com. We've mentioned about Gallup Certified Strengths Coach, I think, during the program here. If you're interested in learning how you could do that, if you're listening to this and you're like, hey, how do I become a coach? All the information you have, including how you do that, is available on our courses page. Just go to courses.gallup.com. Pretty easy. If you have any questions, you can fill out a contact form there, and someone will get right back to you. Join us on our Facebook group. Again, it's called the Gallup Webcast Group. It's facebook.com/groups/called-to-coach. We'll get you there. We look forward to having you next Thursday. We'll stay around if you're listening live. By the way, 40 of you listening on the video or watching on the video, 27 of you logged into the chat room. Some of you are sandbagging. So get into the chat room. We'll go into the post show. With that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.